I spent Independent Bookshop Week visiting 5 of the best independent bookshops here in Glasgow, Scotland. It was going to be 6, but unfortunately Catria Books was closed. However, they absolutely deserve to be mentioned. Catria Books is a radical left-wing bookshop. There are quite a few of them around the UK at this point. They're amazing places. And I urge anyone who cares about radical change and making an actual difference in this world to go visit Catria Books when you're in Glasgow. Now let's take a look at the 5 bookshops that I visited, and the books that I treated myself to while I was there. My first stop was, and I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, one of the most important bookshops in the world right now. The first queer bookshop in Scotland, by and for queer readers. Category is Books. This place means so much to me. It means so much to the whole queer community of Glasgow. The dedication that they have to celebrating queerness, queer art, queer fiction, queer non-fiction, queer stories, queer history. It's absolutely gorgeous. This small, intimate space that has been so curated to celebrate queer stories in so many forms. There are zines, comics, it's separated into horror, fantasy, sci-fi, non-fiction. There are second-hand books. All the newest stuff is on the table in the centre. It's curated and beautiful and colourful. It's a celebration of a space. And you can see here these stickers. There are stickers for sale, there's art for sale, t-shirts for sale, tote bags for sale. What a gorgeous, wonderful place this is. I love it here. Lucky for me, I happened to visit Catria Books the same week that this came out. This is Cuckoo, the new horror novel by Gretchen Felker Martin. As soon as I saw it, I leapt for it, I bought it, and I can't wait to read it. Manhunt was an absolute treat, and I've heard great things about this. I had a long chat with the bookseller at Catria Books about how great her works are, and soon it'll be time for me to dive into this. From there, I headed into Merchant City in the heart of Glasgow, to Bigstone Books. Bigstone Books can be found on Glasford Street, and I'm really excited to talk about this shop in particular because it is a brand new space. At the time of recording, it's only been open for a few months. It is owned by a really charming, really lovely gay couple, and we have talked for hours at this point. Every time I go in, we lose hours talking about the shop, talking about its history, talking about Glasgow and queer culture and loads of other things. There is a gallery in the basement that you can explore as well, and it's a wonderfully curated space. They have a really broad selection of fiction and non-fiction, and they are celebrating local small businesses. It's charming, it has been beautifully curated, and there is so much light and colour in here. It is a vibrant, beautiful space. And while I was in here, I picked up My Heavenly Favourite by Lucas Reineveld. My Heavenly Favourite is the newest novel by sensational Dutch author Lucas Reineveld. He was the author of The Discomfort of Evening, which is indeed very discomforting. And from the sound of it, from the blurb, My Heavenly Favourite sounds like a Lolita for the 21st century. It's probably gonna destroy me, and I'll probably thank it for that. This is the kind of book you steel yourself for. And I'm okay with that. I'm up to the challenge, I think. In the very heart of Glasgow's West End, halfway up Byres Road and opposite Hillhead Station, is a collection of shops hidden away a little bit. And one of those shops is City Centre Comics, the kind of small independent comic book shop that you don't really see these days. Since moving to Glasgow, I've gotten back into comics, and this shop is a big reason why. I love visiting City Centre Comics every single chance I get, which has been quite a lot recently. And well, just take a look. Walk out of Hillhead subway station, cross the street, and you'll find an alley with a sign for City Centre Comics. Take a stroll down this old cobbled alley, turn the corner, walk past a really fancy restaurant. You'll see more signs pointing you to Ruthven Mews. Ruthven? I've never heard anyone actually say it out loud. Take a walk, follow the signs, and eventually you'll arrive at this lovely selection of shops. And here is City Centre Comics. This is the definition of a hidden gem in Glasgow. A fantastic little comic book shop. I have also spent hours upon hours in here chatting with the owners, talking about comics, the history of comics, our favourite writers and artists. These guys have a passion for the industry. And just look, this is a proper old school comic book shop. The kind of thing that you see in old movies and TV shows. I really love just walking in and smelling the place, as weird as that sounds. It has a comic book smell to it, which I really adore. And here's what I picked up while I was there. Dark Knight's Death Metal is the follow-up to Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Dark Knight's Metal. That was a mini-series that shook the entire DC multiverse, and this promises to do the same, but maybe even bigger, maybe even better. I was a huge fan of Snyder and Capullo's Batman run, which went on for quite a few years. I collected the entire thing while it was coming out, and then I started moving around the planet a lot, and that's when I stopped being able to collect and read comics. But getting back into comics now, so many years later, it's important to find out what these two have been up to. I read Dark Knight's Metal a little while ago, and now it's time for me to read death metal. And as a fan of death metal, I'm pretty excited. In the south side of Glasgow, not too far from Catria Books, is the neighbourhood of Mount Florida, and the suitably titled Mount Florida Books. This is a really charming little bookshop with a wonderfully enthusiastic and hilarious owner, and I had a blast visiting and chatting with her. Mount Florida Books is the kind of shop that takes the word charming to a whole new level. As soon as you walk in, you get the sense that this shop knows that it is small, and that it is cute, and that it is cozy, and it takes advantage of all of that by presenting you with a curated selection of the best new fiction and non-fiction, as well as you can see, lots of adorable stationery and gifts. There's a charming children's book section as well. It is cozy, it is kind, and the owner is one of the most enthusiastic, hilarious people I've ever met. The place does events, and just look, the way that it's all just been put out for you to explore and find a new favourite book. What a charming little space. I really love it here. And the last bookshop that I visited on my tour was Burning House Books. Now I would like to say up front here that I walked into Burning House Books, I'd never been in before, I didn't know anything about the place. And the owner and I got to talking, and it is kind of wild how similar we are and how much we have in common. We're both from the West Midlands, we both love living in Glasgow and are pretty settled here. We've both lived abroad, we're both self-employed people, we both have similar attitudes towards books and independent businesses, and we were chatting for ages about our lives and our jobs. It was really lovely. And this is Burning House Books, a beautiful little space. Burning House Books has a specific mission statement, which I really appreciate. And that mission statement is to sell things that matter. You will not find any bland and uninteresting commercial fiction here. Every single book has been very specifically chosen. This is what curated really means. Every fiction and non-fiction book here actually has something meaningful to say. These are thematically dense, important political books with a purpose, with soul. Every single book in here is incredible. So it doesn't matter what you buy, you will be getting something that means something. You will find a new favourite here. A small space with a real mission, real soul. There you go, those are 5 incredible independent bookshops here in Glasgow that I'm so glad I made the time to do a little tour of during Independent Bookshop Week. Independent bookshops are the heart of a community. And I know I'm biased in saying that, but they're places of art and culture. And if this week is anything to go by, they are places where you make friends, where you meet interesting people, where you lose hours getting into conversations about comic books, about queer culture, about politics, and about our own lives. All the people that I've met, all the places I've been, it's been a lovely experience. These are amazing spaces that we need to cherish, and I hope that if you live in Scotland or when you visit Glasgow, you take the time to visit some of these amazing independent bookshops. I really cherish these places and the people who've poured their souls into them. And I also hoped you enjoyed my tiny little book haul as well. If you did, you can let me know by supporting me on Patreon or hitting the super thanks button and leaving me a little tip. I'd really appreciate it. And of course, subscribe for books.